Welcome into another episode of NewOrleans.Football free agency frenzy, I guess, is kind of underway. The Saints free agency frenzy. They signed a guy who hasn't played here before, so they're in the mix.
Frenzy. Frenzy is really
Frenzy's overstating it. Frenzy's definitely overstating it. But another episode of NewOrleans.Football presented by PJ's Coffee. If you're in the market for a new car, go pick up one from Matt Bowers at one of his many locations throughout the region. He will he'll get you right. He'll get you right. He'll get you the right price. You won't overpay. I don't know if everybody can say that this week, but you will not overpay at Matt Bowers car dealerships throughout the region. So make sure you go check out Matt. Our first topic today is presented by Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey. Justin Reid got brought in on a pretty sizable deal. Pretty big name there. The big splash so far of free agency for the Saints. What do you think of that deal?
Yeah, I mean, splash is probably also overstating it, but we didn't think the Saints were going to be a splash type of team. So I like if they're shopping in the ballpark where they're shopping. I like the price. I like how much he can help a secondary that really needs it after it's been nothing but exits in recent years. And I like that he's a guy who just turned 28 and he's probably playing the best football of his career. So I mean, this is kind of, I don't know if you're one of those, you can't just buy your way to a good team in free agency. You need to make some smart additions here and there. I mean, this kind of feels like the right kind of way to do free agency. Now, obviously, it all depends on how well he performs, but seems like a smart, sensible size signing with upside and low risk. And I mean, oh my goodness, what if they didn't add to the secondary? They just lost Paulson Adebo, traded away Marshawn Lattimore last year. It's Tyrann Mathieu with 1 year left on his deal next to a question mark, next to question mark and question mark.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know. He's a little like for a box safety. He's kind of splashy, like a little bit splashy. Like it's not without splash. Like I think he's probably a top 10 strong safety.
Yeah.
In the NFL. I mean, and he costs a good amount of money. Like he's not a bad player. He just had his best season of his career. I would rather not be buying him.
Yeah, no kidding.
At the high.
I can't believe he came at the same price as Juwan Johnson, though, who we're going to talk about later. But I mean, that like it feels like he should be in a tier above Juwan Johnson.
I mean, safety is not a premier position in the NFL, but I think he's a good player, but he's not. I think you just got to know what you're getting though. Like he's not a guy that's going to produce a lot of turnovers. He's never been that. Doesn't pick off a lot of passes. He's someone that over the last 2 years, it used to be he played more free safety than box safety. Over the last 2 years, it's shifted to where he's played more box safety than free safety, and I think he's playing better than he has in his career. Pretty surefire tackler. And if you're a team that's really bad against the run, he's someone that you need. And then I also think the other element of this is the way they want to play defense. Like you really need to have that safety that can tackle well, because what they like to do, what Staley has done historically throughout his career, we don't know exactly what he's going to implement now, but if he does what he's always done, is he likes to show lighter boxes at the snap and kind of disguise his safeties in the run game. Like a lot of teams you'll just see him immediately go to single high and drop a guy down. Like he likes to hold his safeties back and not declare them immediately. So you need safeties that can tackle. He gives you one has been really good at tackling throughout his career. And the idea of that is that it's just makes it harder for them to bring blocking help to where that safety's coming from. So they like to try to hide that a little bit. And he's somebody that I think allows you to execute how you want to execute. And I think he's kind of a needed player for the scheme. I didn't think they were going to go out and spend money at this position, though. I thought it was going to be the find the young or, the cast off who hasn't quite fit, bring him in, get him working well, get him playing well, and then allow him to go get paid somewhere else next season, which is kind of what they've been doing. But it makes sense. It makes sense to make that investment there. And, I think you get a nice little pairing between him and Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah, and maybe for a year, though. I mean, another equation of this is when they redid Tyrann's deal, it kind of felt like, it kind of feels like they're also putting an expiration on it. I mean, maybe Tyrann will have a great season. Maybe he'll be a great fit with this defense, and they'll want to re-up him in free agency. But obviously, they didn't extend Tyrann Mathieu. He's got 1 year left on his deal. So now you're also thinking about the future with this 3-year deal on a younger player as well.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. He's at a point in his career where you got to kind of look at that longevity, and I'm sure Tyron's looking at it, where he wants to do with the rest of his career too. I think he said before, a few more years. So I don't think he's winding down the clock just yet. But maybe you go and try to win one more ring or something after there, or maybe you re up and you finish it here. Like kind of see where it goes. You're in a period of transition, new coaches, all that stuff. So who knows what it's going to look like beyond this season? But yeah, look, I like the signing. I like the move. I think if Tyron moved on, I would probably want to get another ball hawk though. Like beyond that, I
Yeah.
don't know if that's Justin Reid, and that still is Tyron. Tyron's someone that's going to get you 4, 5, 6 possessions back a season because he is that kind of someone that creates those turnovers, and that has not quite been Reid's game. But I like the move, and look, between him and Godchow, I feel a little bit better about the run defense. There's two pieces here that I think improve it overall. I think the defense still needs a lot of work. We'll talk on the rest of the needs later on in the show, but I feel slightly better about the defense today than I did 72
Or
hours ago
it's
or whatever.
interesting. That's the next point I was going to make. I mean, the two new additions. Obviously, they also brought back Chase Young, but the two new additions they've made are both addressing the run defense. And I mean, it could be coincidence. I mean, they're juggling a lot of things at once. They're making a lot of moves all together. We'll see what they do in the draft. But just so happens that the first two new players that they've added to this team are addressing the run defense, which makes it feel like that must have been a top priority that they addressed this offseason.
Well, shoot, I like if that's what you want to see. You want the defensive coordinator to come in and say like, man, this run defense stinks. Let's get some solutions. And I think that's what you see right out of the gate. His run defense wasn't great with the Chargers either. So be cognizant of all that and make sure you get all the pieces that you need. And yeah, two good ones here. And Reed's a pretty good player in coverage too. Like I'm not trying to play it as if he's a hit only,
Yeah.
downhill safety. Like he can cover too. He can do some stuff. He plays a lot in the slot, gives you some versatility. There's a lot of stuff that I think he's going to be able to do. So yeah, I like the signing. Moving on to our next topic presented by Aaron Rose. You mentioned both of them already, Chase Young, Juwan Johnson back. Let's start with Chase Young. What were your initial thoughts on that deal?
Well, first of all, if they can get better on first and second down, maybe Chase Young can start getting some sacks on third down. Maybe it all works together. But yeah, look, I try to wonder like how I'd view these lenses if I wasn't worried about the Saints cap situation. Like this is probably right around the max that I'd feel comfortable with Chase Young. Like if you're looking at another team that has 150 million to spend in free agency, I still kind of like the gamble. I mean, I understand like burn me once, burn me twice, fool me once, fool me twice, but he is still a 25-year-old edge rusher with elite traits. That is something that I don't mind investing in, especially when he is still half the price of the top of the market now. Myles Garrett makes 40 million, he's making 17 million. Like he's going to be 25, 26 and 27 in the 3 years of this deal. Like I like that concept. Last year I loved the concept of Chase Young and it just didn't quite happen. And that's sort of been the story of his whole career. So should the Saints be the team paying for a maybe? Probably not. But should Chase Young be a guy who's getting a 3-year, $17 million per year deal? Probably. And if he's about to have the best 3 years of his career, and if this defense has a vision for him and likes what they see from him, I mean, I like the concept of paying for, he's probably a $12 million player and you're paying a little extra for upside. I like that a little better than just paying for somebody who has no chance to exceed their value.
So on the last show, we were talking about it before it came out, and I think we both had. I didn't like going beyond 2 years. You said you wouldn't give him the Adebo deal. You kind of got the Adebo deal. You mean that like just in through the prism of the Saints?
Yeah, I mean, I figured this is what Chase Young would probably. This is about what I thought he would cost. And I didn't think the Saints, just the same with the Debo. I just didn't think they were going to be in that ballpark. This is right about at the edge of what I think they could afford to pay. And look, if this is the biggest expenditure you make, that's not a super safe bet. Yeah, I'm definitely torn on it. I would like it better for another team than I like for the Saints. But look, if if he's even just as good as he's been or a little better, then at least he's a part of your plan for 25, 26, and 27, which is the one part of it that makes me feel a little better about it. But I don't know if I would have made the same gamble, but this is I didn't expect them to get him back for 12 million a year, so this is what you had to pay, and if you didn't pay this for him, you had to pay somebody something. I mean, what the Falcons just signed Leonard Floyd, maybe that would have been smarter, but this was the number one position I thought they had to address. So I'm a little torn, but this is what he should probably cost, and this was a need they had to fill. So I don't hate it, I don't love it.
Yeah, like I was okay it too. I don't know why the third year kind of changes the whole feel of it for me. Because like really, I'm comfortable with one, but I was like, what I said on the last show was like, yeah, I'd be cool with two because you probably have to go to two to get them, and you have this massive hole. And if you don't fill the hole, then you're forced to pick a guy at 9. Your draft options aren't open, and you're trying to plug a hole in the open market. And this is kind of the cost of missing on Peyton Turner and Marcus Davenport and Isaiah Foskey, and just never getting a real answer at defensive end. So then this is where you're at. You end up having to pay a little bit more for somebody than you'd like. Something about the third year I don't like. And I think the thing I don't necessarily like about it is that there just hasn't been consistency with this player. Like you mentioned Leonard Floyd, it took him like 5 years to become like that player. Like if all of a sudden it clicks for Chase Young, this is a fine deal. But if you're getting 5.5 sacks one year, if you're getting 10 games one year, and then you're getting 17 games and 8.5 another, like that doesn't work. Like you need to get that 8 sacks, I think, pretty much every single year, and then it's a fine deal. And it isn't that far off. Like he had 5.5 last year. You add in the 2 point conversion sack, you're at 6.5. Like he was seventh in the league in pressures. It's not that far off. But I think the problem with it isn't even necessarily the production part. It's the consistency and availability. Hopefully the next surgery has done that and put them on track. Hopefully the consistency comes, as you mentioned, if they're a little bit of a better team, maybe there's some more advantageous opportunities. Staley's edge guys have historically been effective, so maybe he helps with that too. We saw the first half of the season, with one ideal, one approach on the defensive line shifting, and then in the second half, a lot of guys got better, so maybe that coaching aspect helps. But there's a lot of maybes here, and I think
It's a
I think the collection of
maybe
maybes,
if it gets, yeah.
yeah, it creates a little bit of discomfort. So for me, like Chase Young on a 1 year deal is fantastic. It basically pay him whatever. Like I don't care because it's 1 year. I understand you got to go too. Like there's competition for him. I feel like there's a potential for elongated regret if by going to 3 at 2. It just feels like you're in it and then okay, whatever, they got to get out of it. It feels a little bit more tied, but I do think that there's a chance at the end of this it feels okay. Like it doesn't feel reckless. It just feels like you're on uncomfortable ground here a little bit, and I think he's been available multiple times in the last couple of years because there still is that piece of something to prove.
No question. And look, Chase Young is so fascinating because we have no idea how we'd look at him if it was in a different prison. We look at him as somebody who hasn't lived up to his expectations. I compare him to Jadeveon Clowney a lot. But what if Peyton Turner had his career? Would we be like, man, that was a good pick with the 28th pick? Like, I don't even know the answer to that question. Like, it's definitely been inconsistency. I mean, I guess you can compare him to Marcus Davenport. Marcus Davenport, I think, hit higher highs than we've seen from Chase Young, but it was a lot of the same. So it's just like there's such an expectation, and Chase Young is very clearly someone who hasn't lived up to his expectations. But if they had drafted him with the Isaiah Foskey pick, and he had done this, I mean, like I think he's a starting defensive end in the NFL. I don't think I think he's underachieved greatly, but I do think there's at least a floor there. Like at the very least, when we do our rankings this off season, I'm probably gonna put him right next to Carl Granderson, and because Carl Granderson was undrafted and then signed an extension for $12 million a year, I feel like Carl Granderson's living up to his potential. But since Young was a number 2 pick and he's making $17 million a year, I feel like he's underachieved. But I don't hate him in my starting lineup. So I think there's at least some semblance of a floor here.
Yeah, I would say no. I don't like if Turner averaged 6 sacks every 17 games, which is what Chase is at for a first round pick. That doesn't feel like an answer. Feel with your
No,
first
not an
round.
answer. Not an answer.
Yeah, your first round pick, I think should be an answer, and he hasn't been that. But I do think that there's tantalizing potential here, and there's always going to be. And look, I don't think we're on the other side of that. Like he's a young guy for the amount of years he's been in the league, but this is probably the cusp of it. I think
Yeah.
if it doesn't hit now, I mean, I'm not coming back here next year being like, man, I hope this is kind of the do or die area. Like you're on uncomfortable ground. And if he continues being what he is, like I understand that there's an element of there had to be an overpay here to plug a hole because you don't want to have to draft Shamar Stewart at 9. If you want to draft Shamar Stewart at 9, that's great. You don't want to have to draft
Yeah.
Shamar Stewart
Yeah.
at 9 and hope that this guy with what do you have last year? A sack and a half. He's got a higher RAS score than he does college career sacks. You don't want to have to draft that guy at 9 and say he's going to be the answer, the Georgia edge, and say he has to be the answer on day one. This allows you to make choices that you want to make. And look, I think the Saints got a few more things to do to get to that point across the board. We're going to talk about all those things a little bit later on in the show. Right now, we're going to hit a break, and we'll be right back with some more contract talk.
Rouse's Markets is voted best grocery store in New Orleans, best grocery store in Baton Rouge, Mississippi, Gulf Coast, Thibodaux, Houma, Hammond, Lake Charles, Mobile, year after year. Thank you for choosing us best grocery store on the Gulf Coast. Number 1. Thank you.
Thank you.
The number 1 grocery store
In Mississippi, Alabama,
Louisiana. 1 million customers a week can't be wrong. Welcome to Rouse's.
The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. Looking for the best insurance coverage at the lowest price? Look no further than Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. They are a local independent insurance agency right here in New Orleans, specializing in home, flood, and auto insurance. At Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, their dedicated team will shop every available carrier in the market, ensuring you get the most comprehensive coverage at the lowest possible price. Why settle for less when you can have the best? Trust Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, to protect what matters most to you. I do. I've been a client of theirs since 2021. Call them today at 504-326-6526 or visit them online at Protected by Chabert. That's 504-326-6526. Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency, your local insurance experts. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. Attention Saints fans, don't let pests and termites invade your home field. Trust the team at Red Pest Solutions to tackle those unwelcome visitors. Call the Red Man today for unbeatable pest and termite control. Score peace with no pest. Visit redpest.com, REDDPEST.com. If you are not yet a subscriber to NewOrleans.Football, make sure you correct that today. Use the code NOF to save 20% off your first payment. You get all of our news, our analysis. You get the members only podcast. You get the Nickcast. You get everything that we are doing on the site. And make sure you're locked in and get over there. We got a good forum going over there. You got push alerts for when Twitter's down, so you never have to be disconnected from your Saints, because we are there making sure you are up to date with the latest and not always the greatest news, but the latest news for sure. It is now time for the next topic presented by Chabert Insurance, the Earhart Agency. A bunch of Saints restructured their contracts. Is there anything notable from the group here, or just kind of business as usual? Anything you liked, didn't like? I think for me is the things that haven't happened yet, but I'll let you kick it off.
Notable for sure. I mean, the pay cut with Tyrann Mathieu actually kind of surprised me a little bit, because he just took a pay cut last year and had $3.5 million guaranteed. So there was barely any room left for him to take more of a pay cut. So, I mean, they're really challenging him. And then they signed Justin Reid hours later. So, I guess that helps their cap a little, but I think more than anything, it signifies that they're sort of challenging Tyrann Mathieu. And that made me look at it sideways. They're going to be doing the same thing with Cam Jordan. They're going to be saying, yeah, you just took a pay cut 2 years ago, but if you want to stay on this team, you have to take another one. That's kind of one of the risks of the way the Saints manage their cap, is they ask players to take pay cuts a lot. And I think sometimes it makes sense. We wanted to see them do that with Derek Carr, but I don't think it ever goes down well for the player who's being asked to take the pay cut. So that puts them in a weird place with some of their veterans this offseason, I think. And then same thing, we're going to see the numbers on Nathan Shepard and Colin Saunders.
Let me interject real quick. Like I like just before we get into the other guys talking about these guys, keeping it here for a second.
Yeah.
I don't think Tyron's ever bothered about taking less. I think that he's willing to do whatever he can to play here. And I don't think that, like, I know that, like, I know for sure, like the money aspect is not a thing for him. Like I think he prides himself on being a team first player. I think he's always cognizant of where he's at in his career, in the position he plays, and where he stands within the market. And I think more than anything, he just wants to play here. Like he just wants to play here. Like he could very easily could have been, all right, this is cool. Like I took a pay cut last year. You're asking again. Like I only had a couple of years left. I'm gonna go try to play for the Chiefs again, or I'm gonna go try to hook on with the Eagles, or the Bills, or Houston, or whoever, and try to get. I'm gonna go chase a ring and go walk into the Hall of Fame and do that. But like I don't think that's where he's at. I don't think the money thing's an issue for him. So I think with some people though, for sure, not to undermine your. I just think in that specific case, like I don't think it's a thing for him, but for sure, it is risky business walking up to people and asking them to take a pay cut. Like, and it is a strategy. And people get pissed at like they are extremely shrewd and just emotionless in that aspect of like
how to be emotionless. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, we're gonna ask you to take less money and let the chips fall where they may. And it's kind of up to the player to decide how they handle it. And not everyone's going to handle it well. You're right. Not everyone is going to handle it well. It could cause, resentment and bruised egos and all that stuff. But I just wanted to be clear in the case of Tyron. Like I have talked to him before about the pay cut stuff. And like, it is something that I don't think bothers him in the least. Like last year, the whole thing where it was like, hey, look, I don't play a premium position and I want to make sure that like I'm in a place where my contract's like comfortable for them and for me. And look, I just want to be here. Like I knew what the deal was when I came here. And, I don't think I would be surprised if the pay cut is an issue for him this year.
Well, yeah. And I think everything you just said is also true of Cam Jordan. And I think we're going to see that. I mean, I think Cam Jordan is kind of I think it's kind of BS that they're asking me for my second pay cut in 3 years, but they know I'm not going anywhere. I don't want to go anywhere. This is where I want to finish my career. I think both of those guys have been that way. And that's part of great leadership. And in no way was my point taking anything away from their willingness to do it is part of what makes both of those guys special. But I mean,
not everybody's those two. Not everybody's those two. Yeah.
It's a jerk move for a team to ask their best players to do it at the same time. So, like that is one of the tough things. I feel like if the Saints were $100 million over the cap, they wouldn't bother trying to save, $2 million on Tyron's contract and $5 million on Cam's contract. I don't think a lot of teams always do that unless you're, counting every dollar. And so I do think that is one of the kind of hidden negatives with the Saints and the way they manage their cap is they end up asking, valued players to give money back. But at the same time, you're right. There are also guys who understand the reality of the situation. What would I make on the open market? What's my current value? What helps my team? Is this going to allow me to line up next to Justin Reid? And is this going to allow me to line up next to Chase Young? They see value in that too. So it does usually work out. But, it's one of the cold parts of this business. There's no doubt about it.
No doubt. No doubt about it.
Yeah, the other guys I was going to mention was Colin Sutters and Nathan Shepard. I was going to be even colder to them. I thought for sure one of them was getting cut after they traded for Devon Godshaw. I thought they might both get cut anyway. And then the first thing they do is go and trade for a new nose tackle. I thought, all right, well, who's the odd man out going to be? So I was actually a little surprised that they extended Shepard and restructured Saunders. We're going to see what those deals look like. I don't know if pay cuts were involved in either of those cases. But all of a sudden it's Godshaw and it's Brzee and it's John Ridgway is still here and it's Nathan Shepard and it's Colin Saunders, and it's a 3-4 base front where guys like Cam Jordan might be one of these interior guys playing defensive end in a 3-man front. Like there's a lot of bodies here. I'm actually a little surprised how many defensive tackles they have on the team right now.
Yeah, I don't think Saunders was any type of pay cut. I haven't seen, or I'm sorry, yeah, Saunders. I haven't seen Shepard's contract yet, so I don't know what his looked like. His was more of like it was Josina Anderson was the one who broke that. Like it was reported as like a extension, like a 1 year
extension, and that's what they did with Matthew and Davis last year, and that was adding a year while lowering the salary a little bit. That's my prediction with Shepard, but I don't know for sure.
I haven't seen his yet, but yeah, Saunders was just a straight conversion of 25 money. So that was a just a standard, and then I think they added on void years or whatever just to prorate it out. But it took his cap hit down to, hold on, I'm looking at the contract right now. But yeah, no, they didn't do anything new money there or change or pay cut or anything. Ruiz was just a straight up conversion, McCoy and Granderson. So all of those were like that. And yeah, I don't know. There was a weird little like Twitter rumor that they were like trying to trade Carl Granderson. That wasn't true at all. Like, and they were like, oh, they didn't do the conversion. They signed Chase Young. He signed the contract last week. Like, it just hadn't gotten reported. Like, sometimes people just don't tell anyone anything when something happens. Like, it plays out like that. But yeah, they were never, ever, ever, ever trying to trade Carl Granderson. It would have cost him $10 million to do it. Like, what are you going to get? You're going to pay $10 million for like a 5th round pick? Like, I don't know what his market would be, a 4th or a 5th probably. There's just, and now it would be 20. And he was a stand-up outside linebacker at times in college. He's just gained a lot of weight since he came to the league.
He's gained a ton of weight since he's gained. I wonder if he gets to take it all back off now.
Yeah. But yeah, that's good question. I wonder. Yeah, some body types could change. They've been trying to make guys gain weight forever. It makes you wonder if like Davenport. I'm not gonna get into hypothetical Davenport stuff. Like we did that for way too long. Moving on to the next topic. What are we looking for in the next phase of free agency? I'm top of my list. I think cornerback's still definitely a possibility. Offensive line is definitely a possibility, and I think a wide receiver is definitely a possibility. Those feel like the 3 big needs to me, and I think they need to check off 1 or 2 of them, before the draft. I don't think you want to be pigeonholed going in at 9. You want 9 to be open. You might be able to address like another need of where are they picking up 40? 40 like is a good spot to get a player or two. Like, so I'm comfortable with having like 1. They have to do something type of hole, but not 2.
Well, and then they've got 2 third-rounders and 2 fourth-rounders. So let's actually go through them here. What is a free agency must for you that will avoid pigeonholing them in the draft? Like, what spots?
Cornerback.
Tight end would have been one for me, and that's why we didn't talk much about Juwan Johnson. I do not love the value of that deal, but they had to sign somebody who was going to be penciled in as their starting tight end. They picked Juwan Johnson for that. That was a must for me. Defensive end was pretty close to a must. They filled that with Chase Young. Safety was pretty close to a must. They filled that with Justin Reid. I agree. Cornerback is essential, but you do have at least Alontae Taylor and Kool-Aid McKinstry. Do you feel like you need veteran cornerback as one of your 3 starters? You cannot wait till the draft and think, well, we'll get one at some point on day 1 or day 2. You think it has to be a veteran starting caliber corner in free agency still?
If they deem cornerback is a need, I think that's an absolute. You have to do it in free agency because you aren't drafting a cornerback starter at 40. For me, the defensive end was a dire, pressing, starving in the desert, dehydrating in the desert type of need. Like I thought that was like super dire. It's the only reason like. When you're $51 million for Chase Young, like that's the only reason because it was your only way out of getting him. It was your only way to get it, that bottle of Aquafina out there. Like that was it. That's all you could do, and that's what it cost to get it there, and you die without it.
You're not an Ozarka guy? Is that what you're paying us now?
No, I am. I do drink my. You know what I drink? Rouse's has great spring water, and I drink Rouse's spring water. Yeah.
Hey, and you know what? My coffee every morning is Rouse's coffee. They're fueling us.
There you go. Yeah. If corners the need, I think there. I think there. And look, I would like, maybe a vet wide receiver to go with the young guys.
I put wide receiver right about where I put corner.
I feel like you can draft the wide receiver, but I just think I think that room could just use a big dog. You know what I mean? Like just someone that's just that I like the Mike Thomas presence. Like and Chris and Rashid really aren't young anymore, but like just kind of like an older. I don't know. It just feels like it's a young room and like an older presence, older veteran guy would be.
Well, what's so weird about wide receiver is it's a young room. but it also has expiration dates on it. Rashid has 1 year left on his deal. Chris is about to get the 5th year option, which will give him 2 years left on his deal. But like I mean, that might be a draft must, but it might be a draft must and
It might be both. Yeah.
no kidding. But I put corner right around where I put receiver. If you can bring in somebody who elevates it, like a top 2 corner, a top 2 receiver type of thing, I absolutely want that. But I don't think you just need a warm body. I don't think you need another Cedric Wilson. I don't think you need another Isaac Yadam necessarily, because I do think if you're going to get your 3rd best corner or your 3rd or 4th best receiver, then maybe you can do that on day 2 of the draft. Left guard is the only other one I'd put in there. I mean, I guess you could re-sign Lucas Patrick, certainly consider a Mekhi Becton. That's another one. Maybe you could do it in the 2nd or 3rd round of the draft and compete with Nick Saldiveri or something like that. But I don't think they're done yet, and those would be the 3 spots that would rank 1, 2, and 3 for me.
Yeah, like a receiver, if you aren't signing a starter, like I would probably then bring back a couple, like a MVS or an MVS level player, like someone. But I'm going into the draft trying to do it, and I'm signing someone that I'm comfortable cutting if I need to cut a cut down date. But so there's depth there. I think depth across the board everywhere is kind of a must for every just get deeper. Like spend the money to get deeper, so that when there's these injuries, it doesn't matter. And then make your draft picks or whatever. But yeah, I still think there's some heavy shopping left to be
for sure.
to be done.
And, oh, by the way, we haven't mentioned this. They're like $20 million under the cap right now. Like we don't need to get into another cap show. And I wanted them to cut Derek Carr because I don't want them to be in this same cap mess year after year after year. But the same point that we've made a million times is it's this like $100 million that they're over the cap, or $50 million they're over the cap, whatever it is. And it's just the same number. They're not compiling it like a snowball every year. They're just taking it and they're like, we're not going to pay it next year. We'll put it off to next year. And next year they're going to be like, we're not going to pay it this year. It hasn't stopped them from doing anything they want to do in free agency. I don't necessarily agree with that approach this year. I wanted more of a reset. But if you look at it and you're always like, they're in cap hell, which is the term everyone uses. Well, they just signed Chase Young, Juwan Johnson, Justin Reid, and Devon Godshaw, and they're still probably going to add 2 more guys. That, like, they can keep doing this in perpetuity. The question is, should they? Is a different question.
Yeah, and look, other teams do the same. The Eagles manage it the same way. Like when you're winning, it doesn't matter. The problem with
you're winning, it's brilliant.
When the Saints were at the beginning of it and they were winning and everybody's like, what's going on? They look outrageous, but like they normalized it. So other teams, but the one thing that the Eagles do that I think is just brilliant is that they use option bonuses instead of signing bonuses when they restructure people. So then when they trade them, Houston, pay the bill.
Yeah.
Pay the bill. Oh,
Saints
we can
did
trade
that with
CJ. Pay the bill.
Once. Yep.
Yeah. Like that is the brilliant thing, is that they aren't restricted by it in the same ways that the Saints are. And that's, I think sometimes that gentleman gets overhyped, but that is a truly, truly brilliant thing that he does there. All right, we're going to hit a quick break and be back with the Martin's question of the day. Total Maintenance is one of the largest locally owned home and commercial service providers in South Louisiana and serve the greater New Orleans and Baton Rouge markets. They have a membership program that gets you 2 tune-up visits for AC and heating, as well as club membership discounts of 15% on all repairs, half off of all diagnostic charges, and 3-year warranties on most repairs for membership clients. This is usually priced at the low price of $24.95 a month per system, but if you tell Total Maintenance that you found them through NOF, they'll lower the price to $20.95 per month per system for as long as you keep the membership active. Services include AC and heating service and replacement, electrical service, plumbing service, as well as generator service and installation. They are Total Maintenance. Find them at tm-ac.com or give them a call at 504-841-3300, or if you're in the Baton Rouge area, 225-480-1000. Martin's is your go-to destination for everything merry and bright this holiday season. From an unmatched selection of bourbon, whiskeys, and wines to gourmet food, gift baskets, and catering, Martin's has all your holiday needs covered. Family owned and operated since 1946, Martin's knows the perfect ways to celebrate this season with loved ones. Visit them in Metairie, New Orleans, or Baton Rouge, or shop online for the ultimate convenience. Whether you're raising a glass or looking for the perfect holiday gift, make it an easy and cheerful holiday with Martin's. Whether you are a local New Orleanian or a fan in town for the game, get your pre- and post-game fired up at Aaron Rose. Local chaos and local love for the black and gold. Wake up and live with daily drink specials, mimosas, screwdrivers, Bloody Marys, and hot or frozen Irish coffees, all just $3 or $4 between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Aaron Rose, half a block from Bourbon Street in the French Quarter, 811 Conti Street.
Welcome to the Queen Casino, the crown jewel of entertainment destinations. From the thrill of gaming, where every spin and deal brings you closer to fortune, to the excitement of sports betting, where you can feel the rush of victory. Our spaces and catering menu are perfect for any event. From business meetings to grand celebrations, immerse yourself in our vibrant atmosphere with live music that keeps the party going all night long. Join us at the Queen Casino. Your royal adventure awaits.
All right, it is now time for the Martin's question of the day. Martin's is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrels like bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's is so much more than just wine. The question today is, with the most glaring need being cornerback after the early free agency period, do you like the idea of the Saints trading down from 9 and acquiring more draft capital and targeting one of these other guys or stick and pick Will Johnson at 9? Will Johnson might be, some of the mocks have him going a little bit lower.
It's funny that we were just, I didn't even think about the transition, and we were just talking about that. Yeah, more than any year I've covered the Saints, maybe some little bit during that abyss of 2014, 2015, 2016. I would love to see them trade down and acquire a bunch of talent, because I think they need top 10 players, top 20 players all over this roster. I think they need extra depth in every single position group. I think they need upgrades. I think they need a future replacement for all their 30-year-olds at every single position. So I do like the concept. But what they need more than anything else is all-pro players, Pro Bowl players, like elite starters. So if they have to stay at 9 and pick in the top 10 for the first time in a long time, that's how you get Myles Garrett instead of Isaiah Foskey. That's how you get, Joe Thomas instead of, a garden variety offensive tackle, cornerback, the same thing. So I don't hate the idea of using that number 9 chip and getting a special player on this team. I do not want to see them use 3 picks to move up for one special guy. So I'm kind of in between on that, but maybe go ahead and use that number 9 pick. You need special players on this team, but I do hope that they come out of actual day 1 and day 2. As of now, they're supposed to have 6 picks by the end of the first 2 days of the draft. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I'm just never going to be the evangelist for trading back. I'm okay with it, and sometimes it makes sense. And if you're in the spot where it's we like all 4 of these players the same, and we can move back 3 spots or 4 spots and be assured of getting one, or okay, we like these 4 players, and there's 3 teams here that we know aren't going to pick any of them, and we can drop back 7 spots and we'll get any one of them, and we'd be okay with taking them here. I'm okay with doing it then. But I covered a team for a while that was trade back as a strategy, and their drafting was not great. They end up, with a great team overall and all that. But the Patriots drafting over the years, the hit rate, it was not great. And I mean, I think part of that is they recognize, hey, it's a crapshoot a little bit. But I also think if you like a player at a spot and you're not just, shooting darts and you believe in what you're doing, I'm okay with that too. I just don't. I'm never going to be trade back every year, get more picks. Because the hit rate isn't great. And I guess that's the analytics behind it. And I understand it. I just don't, I'm not dropping from 9 to go to 19 just to pick up a 2nd round pick and, something next year or whatever. That's not, I'm not in love with that strategy, especially if you aren't in the full on rebuild. Now, if this was a team that was operating as if they were just tearing it down to the studs and pushing an asset to move back and then getting one in the future, that makes more sense with where they're at. But within their current strategy, I just don't think, I don't know. I'm okay with it if they do it, if they believe in it, if you like enough players. But if you think you can get a better player at 9 with the way they're operating, I think you sit and pick. That's it for me.
The other part of this question was obviously if corner is that must, kind of the same way that left tackle was the must for them last year. I think, look, we're going to address that a lot between now and the end of April. We kind of need to see who else they sign. If they don't sign any other starting caliber players, I don't know if corner is clearly you got to do it at 9 thing like left tackle was last year, but it's probably number 1 on the list right now.
Yeah. I mean, if it's that much of a must-time one, like for sure. All right, we're gonna keep covering free agency. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time.